In this video I'm going to show you how to create the calculated formula questions in Blackboard test. So here we have our current test. We have some questions already. Now if you want to add questions here, you can come and click this plus sign and choose the calculated formula questions. So once you come here, you already have the question and you already have the formula. Like for example, here I have the algebra and geometry questions. Let's say we choose the first one, which says solve for x and ax plus b is equal to c. So we will paste this one here and do some formatting. Let's say we have it like this. Now one thing to remember here, in your question, the variables that you are going to use, the values that are going to change, right, those you are going to put them into square brackets. Like for example, here a, b and c would be variables, right? Like here it says solve for x, so solve for x means this should be something like c minus b upon a, right? That is the formula. So we have that one here. Now a, b and c are variables, but once you put the formula here, you are not going to use the square brackets, you are just going to use the values. So this one you need to remember, there should be no square brackets while you are trying to type the formula here, right? Next step, here we have decimal places, so we can type here 1 if you want to, or we can leave it as 0. Now here are the values of a, b and c, the possible values of a, b and c. So let's say here the minimum is 1 for all of them, and let's say here we can put this one as 10, and let's say this one we put it as 8, and this one as 7, and this can be anything, right? Number of sets that we want here are 10. So 10 means that once this test is run for the students, all these questions are going to be generated. These 10 questions that are generated, they are going to be used for the test, in fact. So they might be repeated also. Like if there are, let's say 20 students, then it means maybe the same question might be repeated twice for two different students elsewhere. So you can have this number as 10 or 20 or 50 or 100, depends what you want to do, but for now we will leave it to 10. Okay, now if your formula and everything is correct, you would get something under the answer, right? Otherwise it's going to show you an error that this is not correct, there is something wrong here. So in our case we see some values here, so it means it's correct. Like here you can see it says 0. 0 means 6 minus 6, b minus or c minus b is 0, so the top one is, the numerator is 0, so the answer is 0. So it's working fine, and we can save this question. So here we have our question. Now let's try to create one more. We click the plus sign, calculated formula question, and we can come and copy this. Now here we have question which says find the area of circle with radius r centimeter, which means that r is our variable, right? And it says use 3.142 for pi. Okay, now the formula here is pi r square, right? So we can paste that one here. So it's already taken as square, so it means the formula is correct. Otherwise you could have chosen something from here to put the square there. So this is our formula. Let's go to our next step. Once again we can choose this one as 1, and the minimum value for R we can say 1, and the maximum we can say 10, and no decimal places for the values, right? We have as whole numbers, and 10 number of answer sets. So once again, if the values are correct, everything is correct, we will get something under the answer. So it means our formula is working fine. We can save this. We can try one more question. Okay, let's try something from physics. Okay, let us use this one.
Avoid zero when setting the variable ranges for the chemistry and physics questions, especially for denominators like volume or molar mass. Make sure your minimum value is at least 0.1 to avoid divide by zero errors. Units. Blackboard doesn't read the units like kg or meters per second. Just ensure your formula calculates the raw number and remind students in the question text which units to provide.
Now, okay, one thing to remember here is the unit, right? When you create the question, you need to ask the students or instruct the students to change the units or however you do it, because here we don't have a proper choice here or option here for the units. So because you can have different units for almost every value that you use in your question. So here it says calculate the potential energy of m kg object held at a height of h meters and use gravity g as 9.8 meter per second. Now the formula here we have m into 9.8 into h, right? So let's go to next step. Once again, we can just put this one as 1 so that our answers are displayed in decimal. And minimum value for, now I don't have much idea what these are, but let's put it like that, and then we click next. Yeah, now we have some values here, so it means the formula is working fine. And we can save this. So this is how you can create calculated formula questions. So the only thing to remember here is that once you are creating the question, that question should have values that are variables in square brackets, while where you are going to type the formula, that has to be a normal formula with those variables that you are using, but not the square brackets. Okay, the next question type is calculated numeric. Whenever we have questions where we can have answers that are considered correct when they are between a range, a given range. For example, the answers can be from 1.1 to 1.5, and all those answers would be considered as correct. So at that point, we tend to use these type of questions. And now these are some of the examples that in these subjects or in these domains we can have such type of questions. For example, in maths we can have, when we have questions which need to be rounded, when we have questions that consist of sine, cosine, and where the student, they have to round their questions or their answers to 3 decimal places before multiplying by something. We can have questions consisting of pi. Chemistry, we can have questions related to atomic weights, gas constants. Then in physics we can have questions related to gravity, pi, and if we have questions that have multi steps, so there we can consider these type of questions. Or moving between Celsius and Kelvin, that is the unit conversion, you can say. We can have questions related to finance, statistics, where questions that consist of interest rates, compound interest, or standard deviations. And here it gives you some value. These are, you can have a different range here, but this is just considered recommended range value. So in these basic maths, or in basic maths, you can have range between 0.01 to 0.05, while in chemistry most probably zero point 0.1. In physics and engineering related questions, you can have from 0.5 to 1.5, and then in finance you can have something 0.005, very tight, which means you need to be very accurate in these questions. Now if you are trying to design questions, you need to answer these three questions. If you are trying to decide the range, is there any constant, that is, let's say pi is a constant, gravity is we have a constant there also, so we can add 0.2 to the range, that is plus minus zero point 0.2. If there are more than 3 steps in a question, we can add 0.5 to the range, that is plus minus 0.5, and if there are exponent or square roots, we can add 1 to the range. Now here we have a test questions. Now this one we are going to implement in Blackboard and see how it works. Now the question is, a cylindrical water tank has a radius of 4.5 meter and a height of 12 meters. Calculate the total volume of the tank in cubic meters. Now this small explanation would make some sense to you, that why we need to have a range. For example, this is a note to the student actually, that the student can use this as a pi value 3.14, or the student can use the pi button on the calculator. As you know that the pi can be 3.14159, and then it goes on. So it depends how accurate you want to be in your answer. So we can use these two values. So here we did a small calculation. The first answer is 763.02, while the second one is 763.40635, right? So now to calculate the range, now this is the correct answer, let's say, right? So if your correct answer is 763.02 and your range is 0.5, so it would be something like this. Now how we calculate the range actually? This is our answer minus 5, and this is our answer plus 5. That makes the range. So the answer between 762.52 to 763.52 would be considered as correct. So the range here we have is plus minus 0.5. Now range would cover anything between these two values, right? So this is how we calculate the range. Okay, now we will try to add that question to our existing test in Blackboard and see how it's done. So we start with the clicking this plus button under the test that we already have. So once we click this, we have the third option as calculated numeric question. Okay, now here we need to paste the question, which is this. You can do some formatting to your question as always. Now this is our question. The correct answer, as we know, was 763.02. so this is our correct answer. Now it says here allow an answer range, right? This is the exact answer that we expect to get from the student. Now here we have the range value. So our range value was 0.5, right? 0.5. So we can type this here. That's it for our question. You have the question text here, right? You know the correct answer and you know the range, that okay, the answer can be between this and this. So here you type the correct answer, while here you enter the range value, and then we can come and click save. So that's it from our side. Now we have the, you can see here it says enter range value plus minus 0.5, right? So this is how you can create a question on calculated numeric, right? But this is the part that you need to keep in mind, how this happens actually, how the range is calculated, or when you should be calculating the range. So you should have very good idea that okay, this question can have different answers, not with a very big difference, but a small difference you can say. And like here, if you look at this point, yeah, here is there an exponent or a square root, so there we can have a bigger difference, so the range can be more than points. It's a complete one digit, you can say a single digit number, that is 1, right? So this is the main part. The question part is, I think, very simple. To get it, you just need to enter the correct option, correct answer, and then you need to enter the range. So this was our calculated numeric question. Okay, this next topic is our creating essay questions in Blackboard. Now creating these questions is very simple. You just need to come and click this plus sign and select the essay question and write the question here, and the student would type the answer in this provided area, or he can upload a file, right? These are the two options. But the real thing is, before creating an essay question, we need to keep some of these things in mind, right? The first one is that we should have very clear communication with the student through the question. Since the question requires manual grading, the setup phase is critical. So here we have some instructions and formatting. To prevent student confusion and technical issues, define the scope of the response within the question text itself, because that is the area where you are going to define your question and all the details. So the first thing here, like the response requirement, explicitly state the expected word count and paragraph limit. If the question is related to, let's say, subjects like English, where you need to type a paragraph on something, so there you can be very specific on these things. Now this is very important, the submission method. This is the most important part, in fact. Advise the student whether to type directly into the editor or upload a document. This should be very, very clear. For longer essays, typing directly into Blackboard can risk data loss if session times out. So if any type of technical issues, that can really, I mean, the whatever the student has typed into the text area, that will be lost. So uploading a file is often a safer option. Now formatting tools ensure students know they can use content editor for bolding, bullet points, or inserting links if your prompt requires structured data. Now if you really want the student to type into the question area, like let's say, let's create one here. You select the essay question, and now here is the part where the student can type. So you can see we have a small editor here, so the student can complete some of the things, like we have the bullet points, we have bold, we have text size, color, all these things are here, alignment also. So the student should know how to use these basic things. Now if you don't require the student to type here, you can ask him to upload the file as an attachment. So once this is clicked, it gives you the option of selecting a file and uploading. So this is all about your question, essay question. Okay, the next question type is fill in the blanks. To create a fill in the blanks question, we can click this plus sign and select the add fill in the blank questions, and here we can type the question. Now the word that you need the student to fill in the blanks, that word or maybe a phrase or whatever you type there should be in square brackets. For example, let's say I have a question, now here I have the question, the capital of Saudi Arabia is Riyadh. So this is what I require. Okay, so this is the exact answer the student needs to type. Now let's see what happens when we click the next option. Now you can see here it gives us blank one, Riyadh. This is the answer. It has to be an exact match, right? So this is the exact spelling that the student needs to type. By default it is not case sensitive, right? So even if the student types this one with a small r or capital R, both would be correct. But now sometime what happens, we have questions where we can have multiple answers, means any of the 2-3 words can be correct. For example, we have a small question here. Okay, we type this one, the options inside the square brackets without any formatting. We can format this part, but there is no need to format the values that we have inside the square brackets. Now you can see one of the primary colors is, now we did not specify what type of color, so the student can select red, blue or yellow, any one of them. So when we come here, we can choose this one as contains, right? So even if he types red or he types blue or yellow, the answer would be correct for him. So we can choose this contains option for these type of questions. And even here we can include different spelling options that we know the student can type. Sometimes the student do not type the correct spelling, so whatever the teacher has in mind that okay, the student can make a mistake in the spelling, so he can write all the possible options here. Then yeah, like here, like this one, this is the example. Let's say the spelling of the color can be COLOR or COLOUR. Both of them can be correct, so we can include both of them there. And again, when we are trying to create this fill in the blank, some of the things that to keep in mind are, we need to ensure that only one clear answer should be there. One word answer is the best, or a phrase that fits the blank. But most probably we need to avoid even a phrase, because that can have other problems. If the question is not clear, it can lead to multiple correct options that the student can think that okay, these are the correct answers. So we need to be very clear in our question. Simple means auto grading works best with single words. So if we have question that we know that this is the only word that is possible for answer of this question, we need to use such type of question. And again, like here it says, if you need long phrase questions that have details, we can use the essay questions instead. Okay, now this part, the pattern part here, like this option we have, the last one, pattern. Now this one we need to know how to use the regular expressions for pattern match, right? So I'm not going through this one here. This one, there are a lot of details that you can put there in this, but we will not consider this part. Now like here, even this is one more example, list of synonyms, exact match. You can have happy, joyful, cheerful, so something like that. So this is one option that can be very useful for us. Yeah, now regular expression, they look something like this. Now once we type something like this, A to Z or capital A to Z, which means that any letter in the alphabet, is small or capital, we can choose any letter. Now it depends what type of questions you have where you can use this, and there are more variations to this regular expressions also. So this is how we can create our fill in the blank questions, and then you can save this. So this was our fill in the blank. Okay, the second option that we can have for fill in the blanks is that we don't have one fill in the blank, we can have more than one fill in the blank in our questions. So how we can do that? We select add fill in the blank question. Now here we have our question. So let's say our question is this is our question, which has two fill in the blanks here, right? And we have put the correct answers here for now. Now you can see it shows us blank 1 and blank 2. Now we said exact match, but we can have, if someone types in HTML or someone types in hypertext markup language or someone types in CSS or cascading style sheets, so both should be marked as correct. So what we can do, we can add the option here. Similarly, we can actually put it here directly. When we typed here HTML, we could have said HTML semicolon, and then we can put this there. or we can put it here also. And we have selected both of them as exact match. Now one thing to remember here, that we have two options here. It means this should be divided, the points should be divided in these two options. So 50% for this and 50% for this one. So we need to select here partial credit, allow partial credit, right? So that is the option that we need to select, and the other, all the calculation would be done by the Blackboard. So we save this. Here we have as blank 1 and blank 2, and we have these options. So let's go and see this one in our preview. Now here you can see that we have these fill in the blanks. So what we can do now, let's say here it's typed HTML, while here cascading style sheets, right? So we should get full points for this. You can see here we got our answers as correct. So this was the second part of our fill in the blanks, where we can have more than one fill in the blank. Okay, the next question type is our hotspot questions. Now what happens in hotspots question actually? Let's say we have an image, or let's select a simpler image. Like this one. Now here we have 4 different images, right? Now these are input and output devices of computer. Now one of them is the input device, which is this scanner. So I can put this image and ask the student to identify the input device. So he will come and click on this image. Now he can click here, there, or exactly on top of it. We will see how to handle that, but this is simple. Once he clicks the right area, he gets the points. Now let's see how we can create that question. We come and click the plus sign, select the hotspot, and we can write the question here. Then we can upload the image. And we will select the same image. Now here we have our image. Now we have to identify which area is the hotspot that the student should click. So the first option here, I'm going to select the rectangle. Now you can drag it to the right place, and then you can resize the area. So I can do something like this. I can increase it also. Let's say the whole image, wherever the student clicks, it should be right. Okay, so this is how we have created the hotspot question with one area to be clicked by the student. Now we can save this. So here we have our question. Now just some of the things that we need to know about the hotspot questions. Now there are a lot of different areas that these hotspot questions can be used, like for example anatomy, where you can display the parts of the body; geography for location on map; you can have biology courses and some other courses. I mean, there are a lot of options that you can include. Now here are some of the key points that we should consider before creating the hotspot question. Now here it says that keep these functional points in mind to ensure that question works correctly for all students. Now first thing, the image clarity. We need to use high resolution images that should be 1200 by 800 pixels. Accessibility. Now hotspot questions are inherently visual. Always provide alternative text. A student using screen readers will rely on this description to understand the context of the image. Now we will look at this one, how to show that what this is talking about. Precision versus fairness. When drawing the hotspot, consider the margin of error. If the area is too small, the student might miss it despite knowing the answer. If it's too large, it may lack precision. Now like here we have it, you can see we have the whole area here because we have 4 different images very clearly divided into 4 different areas. So the student can click anywhere in this image and his answer would be correct, right? So we can even reduce this one so that it's only this area. We will see we have other options also to select the exact area, right? Like for example, let me show you. You can see here this is our rectangle, right? I can even choose a circle or I can choose a polygon also, right? So I can simply draw the now like this. So the student has to click exactly on that image to be very specific, right? And we can choose erase hotspot to remove that. So that is what it's talking about here, that we need to be careful that how this thing works. Second, device compatibility. We need to ensure that if this student tries to access this test on some other device, not a computer, where the screen is not big enough, so here it says it should be large enough to be tappable for the student using tablets or touch screens, right, or even a mobile. So the area that we define here should be large enough so that he can easily click that area with his finger. Now here we have a little comparison between these 3 different add hotspot options here: rectangle, circle and polygon. You can see a circle button, focal point or cells moderate means the precision level is just enough. Rectangle is higher, right? So we know that exactly where he is going to click, it's very clear. While polygon is the maximum, we can specify exact area for the image where the student needs to click. Now let us see how the student can attempt this question. We will go into the student preview. So now here we have our question: identify the input devices from the image. So this is the answer. So I will come on, the student will just come and click this, and this is the area. Now if he thinks that this is not correct, he can come and clear the selection and add some other place. So once he finishes, he can click the submit button. Okay, now let us see how we can add an image where we have more than one hotspot. So once again we come to our new question, hotspot, and then we, let's say the same question. Now here we said that identify all the input devices. Now here we are going to select let's say this image, Now here we can see we have an image that has more than one input device. For example, we have a mouse, a keyboard, and a scanner. So we need to specify 3 hotspots. So we can do something like this. So now we have 3 different hotspots. Now for this question to be correct, all these 3 must be selected by the student. Okay, if he selects one of them as wrong, his complete answer would be wrong, because there is no partial marking here, right? So like here, now which one is the correct one? Let's say I have added some other parts here. There are 2 options here. Now see, this one, the first one, let's say all of them are correct, right? So all these 3 needs to be clicked by the student for the answer to be correct. If he misses even one of them, his answer is going to be wrong. We have one more option here, this one, show hotspot to student. Now the student can see all the hotspots, right? So this is not very good that he sees all the correct answer. What we can do, we can add distractors here so that he knows. Now this question becomes something similar to a multiple choice question or multiple answer question, like this. Now you can see here we have all of them, while these 3 are correct and these 3 are wrong, right? Here it says you must check at least one answer as the correct to save. So we might have a image where we have multiple images, but one of them is correct. In this case, 3 of them are correct, right? So you can choose this option to display all the hotspots. If you display all the hotspots, you need to add some distractors also, right? So that the student knows what is it. We can just put here the description. Let's say this is mouse. Now let us save this one. So here we have our question. Here it gives you these 3 are correct answer, while these 3 are not. So let's try and view this one. So here we have our question. Now you can see all these are visible. Identify all the input devices. So I need to select this one also. And this one and this one. So all of them must be correct to get full marks for this question. Even if one is wrong, it's not going to give us the result. So we can submit this. Now let's view. Now you can see here it gives us the tick sign, means we selected the correct one, right? And we got 1 out of 1. So this is how we can create our hotspot questions. Okay, the next question type that we have is the matching questions. Now we can create matching questions by clicking add matching questions. Now this is how it looks like, your matching question. You have the prompt and you have the answer here. Second thing, you can see here we have allow partial and negative credit. We can have something like this also, which means the student must match every prompt with every correct answer. Only then he gets the points, which is not a very good idea, but there might be a situation where this is required but usually we try to go with this one. Allow partial and not negative credit, but allow partial credit. You can see here we have the option of our negative. Now here it shows 3 questions, so that's why it's 33.33. We can add one more pair here, and now you can see it says 25%. So if suppose for example we have 4 options here and we have the points for this question as 4 points, so even if one is correct the student gets 1 point. So we don't need to put the negative here. In case this is wrong, we can have something negative also. And other thing, we should not always have exact number of prompt and answer. We always need to have a distractor, one more answer there, right? So we can put something here also. So this is how we can create a matching question. Now let's see some details on it. Creating matching questions is an excellent way to test association skills while minimizing simple guesswork. And some points that we need to keep in mind while trying to create the matching questions. Always avoid perfect pairs. That is what I was telling you, that we need to have distractors. It should not be that we have 5 prompts and 5 answers. This way the student can get the last one right by process of elimination, right? And the prompt should always be shorter than the answer. Logical scoring. Decide if you want to reward partial credit. In most cases you should, so a student who knows 4 out of 5 pairs isn't penalized for 0. Okay, it should be consistent. Keep the subject matter of the pairs related, which means when you have matching question, it should be related to a single subject. It shouldn't be related to different subjects. Example, all dates, all chemical elements, or all authors, something like that. Mixing topics makes the answers, easy for the student to guess. Distractors, yeah, the same thing here. We need to have distractors also. Now here we have these options, these ones, where it says allow partial and negative option, or we have exact pairs. So what happens here? All or nothing. Student must match every pair correctly to get any points, which means it's not very good idea to put this one. Partial credit points are distributed evenly across pairs. 5 pairs, 20% each, right? Negative credit, subtract points for wrong matches to discourage guessing. So we can have this option also. Now let's try to create the question. We will go with this one, and we have 4 options. This is our prompt and this is our answer, and we can have one distractor also. Okay, we need to type the question here. Match the following, right? So we have 4 prompts and answers and 1 distractor. So we can simply save this, and this is what we get. Now we will try to view this one in student preview. Now here we have our question. So here we have our selection, right? And you can see we have our distractor also. So if you want to see what happened with the question, you can see here we have all the correct answers. Okay, the next question type is the MCQs, multiple choice questions, and once again we can start them by clicking this plus sign and selecting add multiple choice questions. Now once you start here, you have four options. You have the question text, which we can, let's say, type this here: which of the following is a valid declaration of variable to store a single character in Java language. Now by default you have four options. You can add more options if you want to, or you can delete options also. Second part here we have, now this is a multiple choice question, means we have the question here and we have four choices here, right? Now let's say, let us put the options and then we will do the explanation. Now we have four options here. The correct answer is the third one, so we can check this box to show that this is the correct answer. Now we have something here called allow partial or negative credit. So we click this. We are not going to click the negative, but the partial credit, how we can apply the partial points to all of them. Let's say for example this is the correct answer here, so it means we can put this one as 100%. So if this is correct, if this is the one chosen, the student should get 100% of the marks. Now let's say we have four options here and I can make this one as 4 points. So it means if this one is correct, the student gets 4 points. Now we can make this one as 25, 25 and 25. So if he chooses any one of these ones, he gets 25%, which means 1 point, right? There is no negative marking for this one. This is about the multiple choice options. Then we have something here called students can select up to, let's say, 2 options, right? So it means this is multiple answer now. Instead of multiple choice questions, it becomes multiple answer. So it means we have 2 right answers here, and we can again do something like this. We say these 2 are the correct ones, and for both of them, we can say 50% for that and 50% for this, right? So if he selects both of this, he gets full marks for it, because there are 2 options. Like here we can say which of the following is a valid declaration variable. Select all that applies. So he can select from here, right? Now let's say we check the other option. We make this one as 25 and we make this one as 100, right? And here we just say one option, so it is our multiple choice question, right? We save it. Any other option? No. So now we have this question here. Now let's see how we can view this one in students preview. Now here we have our questions, right? So let's first select one of this one and see what we get. So for this one we should be getting as 1 mark, because these are 25% of the total. We submit this. Now you can see here it shows as red, but we do get 1 point for it because it was 25%. So if we had clicked this one, we would have got 4 out of 4. So this is our multiple choice option. So now let us create multiple answer Now once again we click this multiple choice question. So we can type in one more question here. Now here we have our options. So let's just say that two of these options are correct. Let's say the first one and the third one. The third one is the correct answer, but for multiple choice, for multiple answer, we can say two of these are correct, right? And we need to choose, toggle this switch here. So now let's say this one is 50% and this one is also 50%, right? Let's say there is no need to put this one. It should be wrong. So we have two answers here, 50% for this, 50% for this. So if both are selected, the student gets full marks. We save this. Now here we have the question. So we select this one and this one, right? And we click submit. Now you can see that we got, sorry, this one, yeah, okay, we did not change the, it was this one as 4. Okay, now we got full marks here for both these two selections. So this is how you can create a multiple choice question or a multiple answer question. Okay, the next question type are the true false questions. So let's start from here. We select add true false question, and here we have the question text, and the answer for this one, the question is the sun is actually a star, and the answer is true, right? So that is all for the true false question. But here in Blackboard you get some more options here, like this one. The first option says true or false. That is what we have selected. We also have options for yes, no, right, wrong, and agree, disagree, right? So we can choose any of these values. Now let's see when we can use the yes, no, right, wrong. I mean, it depends how you create your question, but there are some basic things that we can consider here. For true false questions, they should be statement based. These questions must be phrased as statements, not as questions. So it should be very simple. And here we have the limit, means true false question type strictly for true false. This part is not for this one, because we do have the other options also. Now here we have the other options, when we should be using true false or yes, no, right, wrong, agree, disagree. These are just some, I mean, some points to remember. These are not very hard and fast rules that you must follow. This one, true false best for factual statements. Example, the earth is round. Yes, no, best for direct questions or procedural steps. Example, is it safe to mix bleach and ammonia? Right or wrong, often used for ethical scenarios or mathematical solutions. Agree, disagree, great for opinion based checks or checking alignment with specific theory. So these are just some points that can be followed. So otherwise we have our question here as the correct option is true. So we can save this, and here we have our question. So this is all for true false question. The next question type is the jumbled sentence questions. So we can select this from here, add jumbled sentence question. Now what are actually jumbled sentence? Here you can see we had the fill in the blanks. If you remember, there one option was given for every blank, while here what happens, a drop down list is given for every blank option. So the student is going to select one from the drop down list. So whatever possible values you have in your sentence that are supposed to be blank, they all will be included in a single drop down list. Like here, uniform drop down, the exact same list of choices appears for every blank in the question. Variable, you must use square brackets wherever you want to display a drop down with values. You need to specify that with a square brackets and the correct option inside that square bracket. You can add a maximum of 100 answer choices in the menu, though 5 to 10. Okay, this is something, again, depends on what you are trying to create. So these are just basic options. Now let's come back here. Here we have our question. Let's say this is our question. Now instead of writing A, B and C, we can actually write the correct answer here. Let us remove the formatting for all of it. We can format the other things, but the square bracket we leave it just like that. Now we are typing here the correct options in the square brackets. And then we have a distractor also. So it means these are three options in the question. When it's displayed to the student, here he would find one drop down, and that drop down will include CPU, RAM and HDD. So we need to have one or two extra distractors also. So we can come and add a distractor here. Let's call this one keyboard, and let's call this one motherboard. Right, so that's it for the jumbled question. Okay, this option, the allow partial credit, what happens here if let's say the student gets one or two of them right and some of them as wrong? So what happens, he would get points for the one that are correct, and Blackboard is going to divide the points automatically on its own. Like if we had 4 here, so it would be 25%, 25%, 25%, and that is how the marks will be assigned. So we can save this one, and here we have our questions. Okay, we will go to the student preview to see how our question looks like. Now here you can see this is our question. We have the drop down here with 5 options. So we have this one as our first option, while this is the second one, and this is the third one. So this way we can get the points. Let's say I choose this one here and I save it. Now you can see here we had 2 options as correct while one was wrong. So we were given partial credit for those correct answers by choosing the by toggling the switch for the partial credit. So this is how we can create jumbled questions. So just to remember that jumbled questions are questions where you can have a drop down list, and when you are trying to create the questions in Blackboard, you do not need to type A, B, C. You can directly type the answer. Like here it says the CPU is the brain, so this is in a square bracket, so automatically a drop down would be created with all these three options and two distractors. So that is how it's going to work.